Hello everyone and welcome to WTF2, the show where I'm going to talk about things in Team Fortress 2 which annoy me. And today, on the first episode, we're not even directly going to talk about Team Fortress 2 itself. No, we're going to review a video. Great start of the show. Great job, Nightfall. Anyway, one of my favorite medic mains, Array7, decided to upload a video talking about the Solemn Vow. And I'm really curious to hear his opinion on it, so let's go!
The Solemn Vow is a joke.
Now that's a great start.
If I'm being honest, I kind of forgot it even existed. Instead of a shift in gameplay, the Solemn Vow gives you two small pieces of information: the enemy's health and the enemy's ubercharge percentage, if they're a medic. Both of these facts are very important because they can inform a team on whether or not it's a good idea to push, or if they should go in for a drop on the other team's medic. However, problems with this are: in order to even see this information in the first place, you have to actually look at the other team, which is a perfect opportunity for a sniper or God knows who else to pick you off if you're not careful. And that's also not to mention if the other team's medic is actually within line of sight. Oh geez, it's spreading.
I mean, I do very much agree with this, but again, here he's showing a situation where it's just one medic against the entire team, which is entirely against the whole point. You're not supposed to just go at the whole enemy team, you're supposed to go there together, right? So you should never use this, as you mentioned yourself, valuable information yourself, otherwise yes, you will die.
I think the only practical use for it is taking pot shots at weak enemies, but if you're anything like me, there's a pretty good chance you are just gonna shoot them anyway, so for me it just seems a bit... So far, the only thing I've noticed that's different when I'm using the Solemn Vow is whenever I switch for a quick melee hit, the first thing that goes through my mind is, I'm not getting any Uber for this.
Why? Oh, why? Oh, great and wise Array7. That's not too much of a joke there. He's a pretty good medic, but why would you say it like that? Most of the melees for the medic do not give Uber charge. That's not a counter, at least not an effective one, against the Solemn Vow. It's not its purpose. At this point, you're just talking about a different weapon's purpose and saying this one doesn't have it, therefore it's worse, which is a terrible argument.
You're basically trading Uber on hit, area of effect healing, or a way to save Uber build for what is basically information you can't really do anything with. It's also worth noting that every second you spend chasing a cheap kill or trying to get a peek at the enemy is a second that could be spent, you know, making sure your teammates don't die.
Why would you chase them then? Nothing in the Solemn Vow says, hey, you see an enemy, you have to attack. That's not the item description, alright? That's again a weak argument here, isn't it? Because, like, that's again just your playstyle for it. If you have an Uber Saw, then I get it more like, oh yeah, you want to hit someone for extra Uber. Otherwise, what's the point there? So you might want to attack more. To me, this item seems more like an extra info item, like something that you share with your team so that they can use it better, know more about the game state, and lose less, rather than an item that makes you attack. That's on you.
To do. So my main issues with the Solemn Vow are as follows. The information it gives you is mostly useless, it encourages chasing after weak enemies, and it isn't anything else. So I suggest the following changes. For one, let's dump the ability...
Alright, before we get to the changes part, right? You see what he's been doing there for like a solid few seconds?
So my main issues with
over
the Solemn
here
Vow are as...
He's basically been going at weak enemies with the Uber Saw. But he didn't say anything bad about the Uber Saw. He didn't want to compare the Solemn Vow to the Uber Saw. Like the Uber Saw makes you go for those hits. With the Solemn Vow, you know the info better, right? So it's a bit different, isn't it? Because you don't need to have the Solemn Vow out at all. You can just use your gun and your medigun. There's no point for switching. It's a way different playstyle. So don't blame the game here.
Let's dump the ability to see enemy health. I'm not interested. None of us need that. Instead, let's enable the medic to see their entire team as a whole so they can make decisions based off the information they would otherwise not have. When the Solemn Vow is held, it highlights all the medic's nearby teammates, similar to the effect when you first respawn, including name, health bar, and outline. In addition, the medic receives a 10% speed boost while active, and also a minus 50% holster speed, but we'll get to that later.
I do like the idea of changing something about the vow, but I would like to keep it the way it is, just making it more useful, otherwise we're just scrapping an effect fully. Do you guys remember the old panic attack, for example? You know, by chance? Back in the day it was like the beggar's bazooka where you loaded up a bunch of shots and shot it at people. But it was super slow, because normally with a shotgun it's like, you see, you shoot, you get a hit. With this one, you see, you start loading, and then you might already be dead before you finish it. Because there was no holding mechanic. But people didn't like it so much, it got balanced like maybe once or twice to work better. But then, like the way it is now, it's just a shotgun. It lost its initial thing that made it different. And whilst here, it would be a different type of melee, I'd much rather this type of effect be on a different weapon than on the Solemn Vow, just because the Solemn Vow does have potential. You just need to make it slightly better so people actually use it. Like, essentially, right? You only lose 10% swing speed, so it's still a valid melee. So as long as you're a medic that doesn't use his melee weapon, it's still a fine weapon. Like, it's not a joke. It's definitely not great. That's the point we both agree with, but it's okay. It's an okay weapon, right? Like, see, when you have this weapon on you, right? And you're going pubbing, for example, which is probably the most suitable place for it since in competitive, other saws are just more useful and more prevalent. Just go on there with your buddy pubbing, pocketing him, and giving him all the info necessary so you take the enemy team down together. All the points you had before to call it a joke are essentially null and void because, well, you're talking about situations one on enemy team or one on one, where you're saying, I'd much rather just shoot him with my gun. Well, just do it. No one's forcing you to have the vow out at all times. Just do medicing and have extra info to see if someone's weak, so like you stop healing for a second, get a crossbow shot, kill a dude, feel good about yourself. Like, that's something that could happen. But yes, this weapon definitely needs a boost. But it does not need the type of thing you talked about. I'm sorry, man, I do not agree with this at all.
You see, I can sit here and list everything wrong with its design all I want, but if we're going to talk about the elephant in the refrigerator, it's the fact that with Valve trying to combat cheaters and bots, something like the Solemn Vow is most likely pretty low on the to-do list right now, and I'm fine with that. I think there are bigger backs to stab at the moment. And if by some coincidence you actually like using the Solemn Vow, don't let me saying it isn't as good as I would like it ruin your day. It's a lot of fun to risk your life for cheap kills, I'm gonna be honest. So in case...
See, again, here you're just going for the argument of it's a weapon for cheap kills, which is just your perception of the weapon, which is perfectly fine, right? TF2 is a game which you can play in so many different ways thanks to the different loadouts, different playstyles, and player preferences. However, when it comes to the Solemn Vow, at least design-wise to me, it seems more like a weapon to share info with your buddy or team in general. I feel like a more balanced proposed change would be that the person you're healing at the moment can see the enemy health of the enemies they're looking at, so they get the Solemn Vow effect shared to them, you know? So that if you're not using voice comm or just generally most situations, that's gonna make things more convenient for everybody. And this might actually make some people want to use it more because it's like, oh, I see that exactly this guy only has 30 health left, which is difficult to just tell right away because we don't know how much damage took before or anything. So this could be a potential change, but just disqualifying it by your arguments is kind of weak. I see what you mean, but to most people, like if new players watch your video about it because they're curious, they just got it for a drop, they're gonna think it's a trash weapon, which is not. It's not. As I said, it's an okay weapon. You just need to play it in its way. It's not an Uber saw. It's not a Vita saw. It's not a weapon you want to go for melee kills with. You just go for melee kills the time you would normally do. Just don't really get anything for it, like with most melees. It's just that you're gonna mainly use it to get extra info and share extra info. So a balance change to share that information with someone automatically does seem like a more, logical conclusion to get to than to just fully dump everything and go for something else. Because it has potential. The weapon you propose sounds great, and I'd love to see a weapon like that at some point, but changing the Solemn Vow to this is just like, I don't know, I'd miss the Solemn Vow. The way it used to be. I don't know. At least that's what I think. Anyway, what do you guys think about this? Do you agree more with Ray? Do you agree more with me? What would you change with the weapon? Tell me in the comments below, please. Let's start a conversation on this dead channel if possible still. And, Ray, if you're by chance watching this, how did you get here? how are you lost? Should I order you an Uber? Like, do you wanna go back to normal? This is a graveyard essentially, but if you are listening, love your vids. I just didn't really agree with these points that you put on the Solemn Vow, because I see it as that it has more potential, just did not talk about it all. Anyway, hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you have any other WTF2 episodes you'd like me to talk about, please put them in the comments or contact me for Discord. Anyways, fine. Hope your day is going great, and I will see you guys next year.